Welcome back to another World Cup fantasy video. This will be the first team selection on the channel, and in future installations there will also be a review section as well as what we're going to do now here today, which is looking ahead to the upcoming deadline and what I'm planning to field. But there will be some changes going into the deadline stream, so be sure to tune in for that on the Sunday. That's where I'll be locking in my team and we will see what we get afterwards. But let's get this video to over 300 likes and let's also push on towards 20,000 subscribers, and let's get straight into this one. World Cup Fantasy finally added some new players into the game and updated the rosters. There are still a few players missing, I believe, such as Schmeichel from Denmark, but the majority are going to now be in the game, and that includes Emi Martinez, who was added on Thursday, and his ownership has already gone up to 6.3%, and Argentina have a great record, of course. We keep on saying this, they're now only one game away from matching the all-time unbeaten record of 37 games, set by Italy only last year. Argentina could actually beat that during the group stages, but next up is Saudi Arabia, where they can tie the record, and Argentina defensive record is also really astonishing. Over the last 15 games, they've only conceded twice, and in the last 5 matches in particular, they have scored 19 and haven't conceded a single goal, and this includes the Finalissima final against Italy. I think if Emi Martinez had been priced $500,000 cheaper, he would have been probably one of the most selected players or goalkeepers in the game. But because he's 5.5 million, it's a bit of an awkward price, and you have so many good options at 5 million and below, such as the Croatia goalkeeper, who I have recommended and talked about in previous videos as well. But I might go for Emi Martinez instead of going for Otamendi in the back line. And I think a common mistake that will be made in this game is people going for Lisandro Martinez because he's the most expensive Argentine defender, and he also has had a great season for Manchester United, but he is the third choice centre-back. It's always going to be Otamendi and Romero when they're fit, and those two, along with Martinez, and I mentioned this before, they haven't conceded a single goal when all three of them are on the pitch at the same time. So it will be Romero and Otamendi, it seems, against Saudi Arabia. If Romero keeps on recovering in time, it looks like he will be ready for Matchday 1. So in that case, don't go for Lisandro Martinez, and if you want to cover the Argentinian defence, I would go for either Otamendi or Emi Martinez. Now, you would say, well, why not Romero? I think he's a bit too injury-prone for my liking, and he's also a bit more expensive than Otamendi. So I would rather just go for that kind of safety net there, or just go for Emi Martinez in goal, and that allows you to cover other defences around 4.5 to 5.5 million in the backline, rather than going for Christian Romero. Then when you look at the fullbacks, that's where there's a lot of rotation potentially between Molina and Montiel on the right-hand side, and when you're looking at the left-hand side, Acuna is struggling with an injury, and there is actually a distinct possibility that he's going to be kicked out of the World Cup squad because he's not fully fit, and he did struggle a little bit despite a good performance against the United Arab Emirates. He still was struggling in terms of his fitness, so we're going to wait and see. Once they do more tests, we're going to find out if Acuna will be fit enough to play in this World Cup, but in general, it's going to be between him and Tagliafico to play as the left back. So really, if you want a nailed-on Argentine defender or defensive coverage, go for Emi Martinez in goal or Otamendi. I have spread the rest defensively, and I've gone for 5 different nations, starting with Mela, who I've discussed a lot in my videos. Only 4.5 million for someone who has 17 attacking returns in 15 games post the Euros for Denmark, with 8 clean sheets, 5 goals and 4 assists. And in Euro 2020, he got 2 goals and an assist, playing 90 minutes in every single one of those matches. I really like him for match days 1 and 3 against Tunisia and Australia. It's only match day 2 against France, which would concern me a little bit, despite the fact that I think Denmark could win that game, but I still think France will score. Then moving on to Kieran Trippier, he's on set pieces. I believe he will be the main right back and start every single game, and he also can play on the left hand side as he did in the Euros. But there's also Ben White and Trent knocking on the door, you could say, for the right back position. I still firmly believe Trippier will start every single game. If England do win the first 2 games and are already qualified in match day 3 for top position, then maybe Trippier will be rested there. But if that isn't the case, I think Trippier will start every single game, and he's integral to both Newcastle and England, who have a really good defensive record actually when Trippier gets the starts. But over the last year or so, especially post the Euros, England have struggled, and you look at some of the results this year, losing I think 4-0 at home to Hungary. I think it's definitely a cause for concern, and England aren't as strong maybe as they should be on paper, but I would back them to top the group and maybe keep 1 or 2 clean sheets. Don't underestimate Iran, Wales or USA though. Any single one of them could make England drop points. As we saw with Scotland last year in the group stages, Wales could do something a bit similar, but I still back England to get the job done there. Then you're looking at France with a 5 million defender here in Pavard, and then a lot of people have been asking me, what about Theo Hernandez? Well, in all the predicted lineups I've seen from reliable sources, none of them have Theo Hernandez in the starting 11. That doesn't mean he's definitely not going to start, but reports indicate there will be Lucas Hernandez instead playing as the left back, and then it will be Varane partnering either Upamecano or Konate if they play a back four, and the right back will be Benjamin Pavard. And that's why, if you want a France defender, I think why overcomplicate it when you can just go for someone who will start, and he's got a decent goal scoring record this season with 2 goals in 6 games in the Champions League, and he also has been a really good UCL fantasy asset in that regard. So I don't think France will be as impressive as they were maybe in 2018, and I think they could struggle from time to time, even against the kind of weaker opposition, and Denmark could top the group. But Pavard is a good option at 5 million, but you do have alternatives like Otamendi. You've got also Eder Militao, although it looks like he won't be starting for Brazil, but you've got many options at 5 million and below, especially in the defense, and we've covered them in the best budget players video. The last defender you can see here is Denzel Dumfries, who was incredible in Euro 2020 fantasy football, especially in the group stages. It was actually one of my regrets not to go for him, I think it was. And also in the Champions League, there was one match day, I think it was against Victoria Pilsen, where he also got a 12-pointer. He's capable of these big returns. He's already scored in the Champions League and Serie A. He also had a good record, of course, in Euro 2020 fantasy football. But not only that, also in recent games for the Netherlands. And if there is any Netherlands defender that will get a goal, I firmly believe it will be Dumfries. And remember, any defender who scores will get 7 points for doing that. So I would highly recommend going for these attacking fullbacks if you can, maybe 1 or 2 of them potentially, with Cancelo being the other standout. But Dumfries would be the one I'd go for. And Senegal are now going to be without Sadio Mane indefinitely for this World Cup, and that boosts the Netherlands' chances of topping the group and perhaps keeping a clean sheet in matchday 1. I could see 1 or 2 clean sheets here for Holland and potentially a goal there for Denzel Dumfries. My midfield has changed drastically over all the drafts, but I am quite happy with this one despite having no Kevin De Bruyne. I have gone for Olsen once again, covering Denmark against Tunisia, and Olsen was Denmark's top scorer in the World Cup qualifiers with 5 goals, and he also got 3 assists in just 7 starts. I think he's a good option. He might not be the most nailed, but he also, I think, will play the vast majority of the games, and he will get the job done. You've also got some other good options from Denmark in the midfield, such as Højbjerg and Eriksen, but I think Olsen will be the best of the bunch, and he's also the cheapest. So there's a lot to like there. Then you have Angel Di Maria, who stole the show against the United Arab Emirates with 2 goals and an assist, and both goals were of an extreme quality, especially his first one where he volleyed it and just waited for that to sink down from Marcos Acuña's cross, and he absolutely just rifled it into the bottom corner. I think Di Maria is a great option. He's one of the best midfielders in matchday 1. Now, one thing to kind of bear in mind with him is that he doesn't really play the full 90. He tends to be subbed off around 70-80 minutes, so be aware of that. But I think in that time, he can get the job done against Saudi Arabia. But Argentina have so many good options, especially in matchday 1. Lautaro Martinez should be fit and ready to start in matchday 1, so maybe it might be a straight shootout between Di Maria and Lautaro Martinez, and in that case it will be very difficult to choose, and that's where the 12th man could potentially come in, and you could quadruple on Argentina against Saudi Arabia, but I don't think I will be doing that personally. Then you have Trossard against Canada. I think he is a good option, but my main concern with him is the starts. Now, with Eden Hazard even publicly admitting that Trossard should start over him, and of course it's sad to see what's happened to Eden Hazard throughout his career recently, but Trossard does deserve the opportunity, and I think he could do a really good job if he gets to start against Canada, and he's the most exciting player in terms of the midfielders at 5.5 million and below. I don't think Canada are a bad team per se, and I think they could have maybe a surprisingly good tournament, but Belgium are still the favourites to top that group. Obviously, Croatia might have something to say about that as well, but they face off each other in matchday 3. So really for the first 2 match days, if Trossard can get those 2 starts, I think is a great option. But my main concern is, will Roberto Martinez go with Leandro Trossard? I'm not so sure about that, but I have a good feeling that he will get at least 1 start and probably a matchday 1, and that's why he's currently in this draft, in this team selection, but things could change when we get to the deadline stream, so I'll let you guys know, of course. Then you've got Bergwijn against Senegal. He's playing up front. He's got a really good recent record for the Netherlands with 5 goals and 1 assist in his last 6 starts, and he's also doing incredibly well for Ajax. So I am kind of backing Netherlands, as you can see here, with 2 Dutch players, but I'm not going to triple up, I believe, despite maybe all the good news surrounding the Netherlands with Dumfries back in training, also Depay, and you've got obviously Mane missing the entire tournament, which will boost the Netherlands' chances of topping the group. But I am going to go for Bergwijn, only 7 million, and he's also out of position, which is something you really want to see. He's probably the best out of position player in the game. I haven't just gone for one or two, but three big hitters up front. You only see two right here, but there's going to be another one on my bench, and I'll explain the substitutions and all of that very soon. But Messi has been in all of my drafts. I think he's going to have a great tournament, and I do hope so, of course. And he's been in great form for Argentina and also for PSG. And I think he's now got 11 goals in 7 matches for Argentina in this calendar year with 3 assists now, I think it is. I'm kind of losing count at this point. He did get a goal and an assist in the 5-0 victory against the United Arab Emirates, and I think he's just ready to go for this World Cup. And some of you may be looking to cover him per se with Lautaro Martinez, and I think there are a few key differences between the two. They might score a similar amount of goals, but I still think Messi gets more, and not only that, he gets the full 90, which Lautaro sometimes doesn't, and he also gets the assist. So I still think Messi's worth it. 10.5 million is a great price for him. And then you've got Harry Kane. I think one of the key things that really sells me on Harry Kane is the fact that a forward gets 1 point for every 2 shots on target that they have, and I think Harry Kane will have plenty of shots on target. So I think he's a really good option, and I would go for these two alongside another premium forward, which I'll talk about very, very shortly. Despite Iran potentially causing some problems, I remember them being very resolute and resilient against Argentina in 2014, and it only took a last-minute Messi masterclass, really, for Argentina to win that game. They could do something similar to England, but I have to say, I still back Kane to score and also to get plenty of shots on target. There are many things to discuss, and I'm not going to go through every single one of those, but in terms of the confusing parts, I'll try to address them in the best possible way. So starting with the substitutions, I have gone for Roche, who's a 4 million goalkeeper from Uruguay, and he has started 8 games out of 9 under the new manager Diego Alonso, and I firmly believe he will be the first choice, and he can keep 1 or 2 clean sheets, and Uruguay could potentially top the group as well. There could be a lot of surprises in this World Cup. And then you can see Neymar there on my bench. You might be thinking, well, why would you do that, Dylan? The reason why is because you can make substitutions manually, and Neymar plays on the final day. So you want to make sure that those on your bench are playing on the latter days of this match day and that they don't play on the first few days. So if you have, for example, an Ecuadorian or Qatari player on your bench, well, you're going to miss out on their points entirely, and there was no reason for you to even have them in the first place. So you can make automatic substitutions. So just leave your team, don't do anything at all, but you're relying on players to not play at all in order for the substitutions to then take place. You would rather be in control, make them manually, and you will be able to boost your points. And that's why it's very important to have decent squad depth, especially in the group stages. So I'd highly recommend it. And if you have played UCL Fantasy, it's very similar to that in that regard. It's just for those of you that might be new to the game, that haven't really played these sorts of games before, like Euro 2020, UCL Fantasy, and now World Cup Fantasy. But substitutions, you can make them manually, and you can bring out a player that has already played and then bring in someone who hasn't played yet. That is the key thing. And make sure that those on your bench, like Neymar, are playing on the latter days, and you can bring them on when the time comes. So that's all that needs to be said about that. I've also got 2 Croatian players in Borna Sosa, a 3.5 million defender who could be an absolute steal. He's got 8 attacking returns in 13 games this season in the Bundesliga and the German Cup. We've covered him in the best budget players video. And then Perisic, who has featured in previous drafts as well, but I might change him, to be fair. And there's a few players that I am looking at maybe potentially offloading, mainly Pavard, Trossard and Perisic. The rest I'd be very happy to have heading into matchday 1. Let's now move on to the other parts, which are very confusing. So the boosters has already been sorted. There's a button now on your screen. It's yellow, and it's also got like a purple lightning bolt, you could say. You click on it, you can activate the 12th man or the power captainship for matchday 1. The wildcard was never available in matchday 1. It won't be in matchday 4 because we get unlimited transfers anyway. So that's all clear. There's no problems with that. But now the captaincy, how does it actually work? And I'll be honest, there's a lot of confusion. There's nothing that's actually absolutely certain. And there are different parts of the World Cup Fantasy website which contradict each other. So in the rules section that we went over in the How to Play World Cup Fantasy guide, it says that you can change your captain an unlimited number of times provided your captain hasn't played yet. So before we get to the Monday and Tuesday games, you could basically change your captain to Pavard, to Bergwijn, Dumfries, Olsen, any single one of these players. But once we get to your first captain, and let's say you have it on Harry Kane, you will then captain Harry Kane, and let's say he blanks or doesn't do that well, you can then change your captaincy once more to Lionel Messi. But there is so much confusion because it does look like the once more could also mean something else, which means again. There's so much confusion going around on Twitter, of course, and once we get to the matchday 1 deadline, we will be able to see for sure what is going to be the NK scenario. So in the rules section, it does say you can only change it once more, But then when you look at another part of the website, which you'll see on screen right now, it actually says that you're able to have a different captain for every single day. So one on the Sunday, an Ecuador Qatari player. Then on Monday, you can go for Harry Kane. On Tuesday, Messi. Vice versa. For every single one of these days, you can captain a different player. So if that is the case and it ends up being true, it will be just like UCL Fantasy, where you can have a captain on every single one of these individual days within the match day. And it also gives you a really good chance of giving you a lot of points here from your captaincy options, and you're able to take more punts and maybe go for a Di Maria over Messi if you really want to go that way. But unfortunately, until we get to the matchday 1 deadline, this will not be clear. So with the assumption that you're only able to have 2 different captains, I believe I'll be going for Kane and Lionel Messi. I'm also considering Neymar, of course. He's always a great captaincy option. He's fantastic for Brazil. But with only 2 captains, I would go for Messi and Harry Kane. They're the 2 that I definitely want to put the armband on at some point. But if it changes and we have captains on different days, every single one of them, which would be my preference, then of course I will be able to take punts. And maybe on the Monday, for example, I could go for a Netherlands player and vice versa. I could go about things a bit differently and take a few more punts and not just go for the template pick, so to speak. So that is the captaincy. It's basically a lot of confusion, unfortunately, but with what I've just seen in the website that you saw on screen as well, my gut feeling is that we can have now a captaincy on every single one of these individual days. I hope it's the case. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. It is a bit of a mess. We should have had this all clarified weeks ago, let alone just days before the tournament. And obviously the rosters, I understand, like I said, because we had the final submissions on the 14th of November. That's completely understandable. But in terms of the captaincy confusion and all of the rules being very unclear, that is unacceptable in my opinion. Of course, it's just a game, but it would have been better if everything was just set from the get-go. I am considering using the 12th man, and Kylian Mbappe is definitely one of the standouts, and I'll also be showing you the alternative as well as some possible changes I could make to this squad, and I want to see your thoughts in terms of if you prefer this or the other squad I'm going to show you. It really just includes 2 changes, but it does make a key difference in the midfield and the defence. But I think if I do deploy the 12th man chip, Kylian Mbappe is the front runner against Australia. I don't want to really fit him in and force his way into my squad, and that's why with the 12th man you're able to just pick any player you want. No budget restrictions, but you can't captain, transfer or sub this player out. So whoever you pick, you have to have a really good feeling about him. Someone like Mbappe who has a good fixture on paper that could also potentially go absolutely ballistic and get a couple of goals. But this chip will really just get you 10 to 20 extra points if that's really the best case scenario. This is going to be really rare for someone to get more than 20 points. So it's not going to be the most powerful chip. It's not like the Limitless. We covered this already, but it's a fun chip to use. It's quite different to other fantasy games. And also be sure to join the World Cup Fantasy League, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And it's also in the description below. All you have to do is click the link and you will automatically join. So now let me show you my other 12th man or potential 12th man, and then show you the other possible transfers I could make to this squad. It's going to go down to the wire whether I play the 12th man or not, but it's between Kylian Mbappe and Kevin De Bruyne as the 12th man. And I am favouring Mbappe at the moment, but De Bruyne has 8 returns in his last 9 games for Belgium, and he is their best player by far, especially with Eden Hazard now not being the same player as he once was. So De Bruyne is the standout, he's the talisman, and he's facing Canada, who I expect Belgium to beat quite comprehensively, but let's wait and see how things turn out, of course. But De Bruyne is definitely in contention. I already have Neymar, Messi and Harry Kane, so it would be either Mbappe or De Bruyne for the 12th man. And then some of you are considering a 4th Argentina player, which is fair enough. I would probably go for a Lautaro Martinez if that was the case in my situation, but I think I will be going for either Mbappe or De Bruyne if I decide to go for the 12th man. Of course, I'll still be mulling this over the next few days, but as discussed in the chip strategy video, my current strategy and thinking is to play the 12th man in matchday 1. I could make 2 changes to this squad, which include Cancelo in for Pavard, and in order to do that, I would have to downgrade Trossard to Kazri, who was incredible in the last World Cup, and Tunisia are a bit unlucky not to progress to the next round. And the main reason I would do this is because of my concerns about Trossard starting, but because of Eden Hazard's issues and because of Trossard's form, I think there is a better chance than ever for Trossard to really shine in this World Cup. So this is another kind of team and another kind of draft, but it only really has 2 changes. The rest would be the exact same. I take take out 1 million from my midfield and put it into the defense. Some of you may argue it's too much money in the back line. That's completely fair enough. I think Cancelo is a good option against Ghana, who just beat Switzerland 2-0, by the way. And of course, Portugal looked great against Nigeria, but that's something I have to mull over the next few days. I think Kazri is the best 4.5 million midfielder, although you have some other contenders like Gonzalo Plata. So it's going to be something I'm going to consider. Let me know your thoughts. Do you prefer Cancelo and Kazri, or do you prefer Pavard and Trossard? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 300 likes, and let's also push on towards 20,000 subscribers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and you can also become a patron or a channel member. The links are in the description below. The same goes for the FPL League, the World Cup Fantasy League, and the Discord server. All of that is there. I wish you all the best of luck for Matchday 1 and the rest of the tournament, and I'll see you next time.